Okay, welcome to episode 44 of the Slightly Fuzzed Podcast. We've been on a hiatus for a while. We focused on the Fuzz Club and some other things, but I always said if I were to bring it back, it would be for a good reason. And today we have a good reason. We have Mark Sunshine, the new singer of Unida and the singer of Riotgod. And I'm honored to have you on the Slightly Fuzzed Podcast, man.
Well, I'm honored to be here.
Awesome. I'm stoked. So let's get into it, man. I didn't ever know of Riotgod until recently, and I have been obsessed for the last few months, man. I've been listening to it like crazy, and I've had some good conversations with you about kind of what went on with Riotgod, and you sent me some other tracks and all sorts of stuff. So I'm glad that I found it. I'm glad I could share it with my followers and all the friends that I have it here. I've shared it with anybody that I could.
Yeah, it was always a struggle with that particular band because of the way it was structured. The members share duties in both the Atomic Bitchwax and Monster Magnet, and it was always something. Whether it was, I say that just as a matter of fact. It wasn't like I'm not. It is what it was.
Yeah.
It was a struggle to get time because you were like third string. So. Oddly enough, the year before the band imploded, 2012 was our most active year. It was the year that we were offered a deal that would have elevated us. Unfortunately, everyone wasn't on the same page, if indeed not in the same book. So, that's why it kind of like, so when it was active, there was, I did a calendar just seeing how much time we were allotted as compared to the other bands. And at first it was like, you thought there would be benefits from it. There would be, like you see other bands, like if they share a member, they'll try to get them on the bill, or they'll try to do, not that they're obligated, but sure, sometimes in opportune moments, some bands will benefit from that. In retrospect, and as a fact, there were there weren't very many beneficial shared situations, and so Riotgod was low on the radar. Yeah. Our biggest gig was Walkin', and by then the band had begun to, the various personalities in the band and the various ties and the different interests, radically different outlooks.
So where were you before Riotgod? Because I saw something today that said Riotgod was kind of your solo project. Is that accurate?
Well, yeah. The funny thing is,
solo project kind of implies that there was a non-solo project before it.
There was this thing that I did. I came up with the Riotgod name, and it was not when Bob, Bob and at that time Jim, they had I was working with Bob before he even joined Monster Magnet. We did like some projects. I have known him a long time. And he was there at the very beginning of when I first started singing. He was in a local band and this, that, the other thing. It's a whole different story. But I was, before, I remember the day we were down at this place called the Dub in Red Bank, and he was like, dude, we're going to have to like stop the music for a while because this is around 2004, and I'm going to join Monster Magnet. I was like, well, hey, man, you got to make some money, whatever. It's a good opportunity. I was like, I'm like a weird dude. I don't do any cover bands. I was Riotgod solo project. It was a name I came up with just for some music. I've always been screwing around with, because I like singing. So if there's no band, I'll get together some guitar players or whatever, and I'll just work on some cockamamie project, and that's just me. And so Riotgod was this name I came up with, and I had the domain name forever. And then let's just say, in fashion true to form, just after the domain name it lapsed, I was asked by the other members of the then nameless band, can we just call it Riotgod? I was like, well, it's not like my solo project was some like overwhelmingly successful commercial barrier to that. So I said, sure. You know, let me just move this window up here into the second monitor, and it seems a little more natural. So yeah, so I said, okay. So I had to scurry and get the, make sure the domain wasn't lost, even though it wasn't of extreme value. And that's how the name, was applied almost awkwardly to what that project was. We tried a bunch of names, and then, it was just suggested, well, hey, you got that name, don't you? And that was it. So it was a little, like, put it this way, the solo project I made with that was like this boutique situation, and I still have the cassettes. They're like, I did it with a member of Blood Feast, old thrash friends of mine. Like, when you're in Jersey, just like when you're in California, I noticed those guys have the same kind of thing. If you're, like, people know people, like, you just like, you grew up with, you met them from one scene. I was in a technical kind of weird metal band. I was in like a kind of like a post thrash band that eventually its members like metamorphosed into like a kind of grungy alt band. And back then, I'm going to say I was fairly clueless. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, whatever. It wasn't really until Riotgod and like that progression where I thought, wow, especially given the things that went on, and I was like, wow, this could really elevate something. Unfortunately, it didn't.
Sure.
But
those guys, they were there from the first album then? Or did you ever record anything?
No. Well, I did. And the stuff that was originally on my little Riotgod thing was like just an experimental thing. And I actually still have the cassettes. I made a printout, and my friend CJ, he printed them. He duplicated them for me, and they're on this conspicuous blue cassette.
Yeah.
And
what did this sound like? Does it sound like the Riotgod that we know?
Or no, it was bananas. It was just, it was what it was, and it is what it is. And it's, I'm going to be putting it on my YouTube because I'm doing a music retrospective, just trying to figure out like where I've been and what I've done and what crazy, just it's been like so under the radar, but like, but music is a big part of my life. So just because I haven't been successful doesn't relegate, how dare you recall your life, you.
Yeah. So where did you kind of learn to sing? Because I've heard a lot of your tracks that are wildly different. I mean, a lot of people might know you now from Unida and go back and listen to Riotgod, but I mean, you've shared tracks with me that were way more acoustic, or like the Queen cover, that kind of stuff. Like, so where did you really get your chops singing?
Just by keep doing it. Like, when I first started, I really didn't know about my upper register. I really didn't. I didn't really know. It's just from your voice is an instrument, and yet I had plenty of stuff that I would always want to sing with. So and kind of like Stevie Wonder, Ian Gillan, anyone that really uses their voice in a good way. Like if you wanted to, like early Rob Halford, like the stuff on Rockarola. I was a big Priest fan, huge Priest fan, still am. I'm an earlier Priest, not the Painkiller stuff. Whatever. But anyone that would really use their voice evocatively, it didn't matter about range. I've never been a high singer. I like to put high accents and stuff, but that and it just depends on what you dig. And a lot of my, a lot of my early stuff was, especially early was disproportionately and really bad technique-y, and because I didn't know anything and I'm self-taught. So eventually with time, you begin to, I think, just by the nature of like, well, wow, there are other frets on this fretboard. And then, but as through practice, you begin to learn more. And then when you learn more, you're able to do more. And, like, I'm a big proponent of vocal layering. I love that stuff. And some people are like, well, what about live? And I'm like, you know what? When I'm dead and gone, there's going to be no more live, but there's going to be the album. So it's kind of like the chicken and the egg. Like people are like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I was like, you know what, man? We disagree. That's it.
Yeah.
So because you listen,
I mean, you have a good point though. I think that some people focus too much on the live thing or how like real rock and roll is and things like that, where, going in the studio and really kind of perfecting it and experimenting and stuff can
well, you look at like Devin Townsend, like his stuff is ridiculous. Like where you're hearing these low frequencies, like like all this stuff going on. And then I'll listen to like even early Yes, where there's like different undulating vocals that are switching and the subject matter switches in the sentence. That's a beautiful experience. So, of course I care about the live experience, but it's with some of the stuff you could do today, especially now, it's to have that, Dark Side of the Moon. People will be listening to it. It is what it was, this sound thing. So like, when I think about vocals and I think about like, I often like when I would listen deep in the mix, like on early Priest and on certain things on Yes. And I'd figure out, or even anything from Trevor Horn, like any productions that he's done on, whether it's Seal or his Art of Noise stuff, like you're hearing all this stuff going on. And so why not apply it to vocals? And that's, what I would try to do especially on the last Riotgod album, like where you have like these, because it is your instrument. And so you could really make these happening things.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So let's go back to Riotgod a little bit, because I mean, you can listen to them in order. And that's what I did, was kind of started with the first one and went through the three. Right. And you can really feel and hear kind of that growth as writers, band, singers, everything just kind of like kept getting better and better. And how is it possible that this band flew so far under the radar, especially given that you had members of Monster Magnet and Count of Bitchwax and stuff?
There was, that scene, and I'll be candid. That scene in Alien where everyone finds out that the guy really, really stuck it to him, and they were like, Ash, what?
Yeah.
When you have people that have either different aspirations, because I always wanted to, like, I have nothing against other bands, but the point is, and this is the fact, if you're in another band and there is a central figure and they are making the lion's share of the money, wouldn't you want to go to craft a situation for yourself where you could still play in that band, but wouldn't you want to start accruing your own capital intellectually and musically, so that somewhere down the line, and if you structure your contracts right and you do what you have to do diligently, some of that money, dude, when I got my first royalty check, which I'd suffered through decades of nothing, when I got the first significant, which was like $100, it paid for like my motherboard fritzed, and it was like, ooh, wow, I just need just when I need it.
Yeah.
That turned me on to becoming much more acclimated with the much more aware, and I wanted to have freedom, at least incrementally, and sometimes much to your, I mean, people could say whatever they want, but if you judge by their actions, they really seem to go ahead and self-sabotage. And, they can call you every name in the book, but if you look at their actions, if you look at their, like, what they've done, I mean, when it came down to Riotgod, everything that could go wrong went wrong. And if you think about that, if you know, because as it seemed like a truck pull, as things started to get more promising, certain parties started to do more wildly questionable, like anything from putting a preposterous title to an album to, and you're looking at yourself and you're like, are you unraveling? And so Divergent, you know, one wants to fly the plane into the ground and you want to, you know, take it for a ride.
Yeah.
And you know, and a strange, selfish stuff. Because, you know, it's perplexing. And that's why it flew. I mean, you know, small label, a person in charge who was like, or in charge, a person who took that mantle upon themselves, whether wanted or unwanted, and, you know, made bad decisions and also placed greater importance on other bands. If that's what you're dealing with, you're gonna be low. You're not gonna ascend in any way, you know. So,
well, I hope that anyone listening to this right now goes and checks out the Riotgod stuff, because like I said, I've been listening to it obsessively for the last few months, and it's quite the discovery for me, because as big as bands like Caius or well, for example, Monster Magnet or Atomic Bituac or something like that is or was, and as big as this scene has become, it just seems to be like in this like purgatory area of like, it wasn't early enough and it hasn't been late enough. It was just in this bad time maybe. And I think people, if it would have came out now, maybe it just would have been this huge thing.
Well, it's a matter of, dude, the thing is, we were offered a deal by Earache, and that would have been a game changer.
Right.
In 2012, we were ordered. I couldn't believe it. I looked at the email, you know, you guys looking for a deal. I thought that everyone would be ecstatic because they could handle the Misha contract in Germany. They could do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be a level up.
Yeah.
And I could not believe when everyone around me was like, I mean, doing the comparative version of staring at their shoes and kicking their feet from left to right, pigeon-toed. I was like, are you insane? And then from then on, it just like, I was in disbelief as to, wow, you guys are, I mean, I was the contact. They left me holding the bag. I just, no hate. It is what it wasn't. And I was just like, you know, it took me a long while to get over that kind of like,
yeah, I bet,
suffocating betrayal. Because back then I was a different dude. You could cast names upon me, but I never, ever, ever did. And I say that as God is my witness, I never did any of that shenanigans. And I never, ever would put someone else's profit and dream before my own, or my band members at the time.
Yeah.
So that kind of, you know, that it's, I don't even know. I'm just like, you know what? That's what happened. And, and, you know, I said, you know what? I'm going to go get a job. And that's that. I said, I don't want to, I ain't singing no covers. I don't know. Here, the scene is small. And not only that, you've got people who are in my demographic who either aren't doing music anymore, or they're already profitably doing it. And they're out there. So, yeah, it's been some time.
So enter Unida, because I mean, there's a clear reason that you were chosen for this role, because your voice is very similar to John Garcia's vocal delivery, and you have an amazing talent for it, as did he. But give us the story. How did you come into this position on Unida? How did they contact you, and how did you become a new singer?
Yeah, well, I mean, a mutual friend, just connected, and that was that. introduced me to Arthur, and I had no idea that Arthur's a man of quite a few projects, A House of Broken Promises, God knows what else, and so I never had any inclination at all that this would be a thing. It was just, to me, that was territory I didn't even consider.
Yeah,
I didn't even consider.
Were you pretty familiar with Unida's work up until that point?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I had in fact, when it was charged with me to learn, a great many songs, I had it on my hard drive from 2005. I mean, I had the Coyote on my hard drive. Yeah.
Yeah, great album.
Yeah.
So
that was
how does it feel? I when I talked to you the last time, you had mentioned that like Vice had even reached out to kind of get your take on this position and that kind of stuff. But how does it feel filling the shoes of such a legend like John Garcia and going into this band? Do you feel pressure, or do you feel like you're just in this great band, and how lucky is that? Or like, how do you feel about stepping into this role?
I feel like I've met a few new people. I mean, no one really can go into a situation thinking about all these other, these other elements. I mean, I've had a lot of work to do. I mean, in a short amount of time to do it. Personally, I've always admired John's stuff, especially with Caius, and even some of the stuff he did with the Chemical Brothers. Or I think it was them.
Yeah,
a little too slow. It did like a project with them.
Yeah.
So me, I mean, I can understand it. I can understand where it's a tough place, and these guys, they have this music and they want to play it, and I know that I'm not gonna. I mean, I'm me. And so it's a tough road. So you try to do your best. You try to pay attention. There are certain things, like, for example, like with certain classic singers that do certain things, no matter what your style is, you're going to have to pay attention, because that certain elements of the song, so you'll do your best to play in that vein. I mean, you have to. But you're going to do it your way. And anyone, I mean, you're either going to have people who are so devoted that there's nothing that you could do.
Sure.
I mean, so you can't reach them. It's cool. Yeah. I mean, but to their, they could go see him with Band of Gold. And as Arthur said, well, he has said that John's not out of the band. Well, maybe, down the road he'll do so. I don't know. I don't know anything about that. All I know is that for this tour, I had to do my best to make the fans of the band, and there were quite a bit, to do my best to I don't want to say honor the songs like it's a funeral. It's just, you have to do the best you can with what you have. And
it feels like Alice in Chains kind of is a similar predicament, where it's like you can never fill shoes of like Lane Staley, but you put William Duvall in there and he does an incredible job of singing those songs.
Yes.
But they did an incredible job of moving them into the future also. And you can hear William Duvall's talent on the new records.
Right.
They've kind of, this is a second chapter. They're not living in the past. They're not trying to recreate stuff. They're kind of a new band, but still honoring that Lane Staley era.
Right. Where there's no way you're going to escape that. I mean, I've heard new material of that Arthur and the fellas have put together. And so, I mean, right now we just finished this, it was quite an adventure.
Tell us about it. Yeah, I was going to ask about the recent shows in Europe and all that kind of stuff. So.
It was really pleasing too. I mean, first of all, there's a lot of cool moments. I mean, jamming a Green Machine with Nick, which was really cool. I was trying to do the second vocal higher kind of situation there, which is in Green Machine, but and then like a couple of guest people come up and sing on Black Woman. Keith from Sasquatch and Damien from Slow Burn in Berlin.
That's awesome.
And I got to meet those folks for the first time as well. And it was stress, but yet you know, put it this way. When I was in London, when we were in London, I had the pleasure of meeting two gentlemen that were introduced to me in 2016. They wanted me to come sing in a different band, but I stayed friends with them as best you can transatlantically. Yeah. And so they're from a band, Blind River, and Chris and Dan. And it was nice because Dan said wasn't like we were meeting anyone new. It was like but yet in this instance, for this tour, everyone I met Arthur before the tour. I had met him a month earlier for the first time, and when he visited Asbury Park with Slightly Stupid. But everyone else, like, I had to meet, and it didn't feel like it was like some weird. It felt like cool. You're suddenly you're charged with this, and everyone's on the same page of at least getting this tour done.
Yeah.
And making it happen, and just everyone doing their best, but it was great because, I say the best thing about the whole thing for me was when you would feel the crowd and they really didn't know what to expect. But I know that the shows were high energy. I know that, and that's no matter, and I know that. And that you could see, that you could feel a crowd that was like, just at the beginning of the evening, they were kind of watching and they were like, how's this going to be? And then by the end of the night, like I'd say most times we had succeeded. Like they were approving, if not disapproving. So that was something, like, and everyone did a great job, and we communicated, and that was because, and I'm new. So there's certain things that, I've had discussions about, like this or whatever. And, I listened to it and I was just like, yeah, okay. And, just whatever.
I've seen some of the videos from this tour, which have all been amazing. And I was very impressed. I loved it. But even just, I knew when Unida kind of made that first announcement that we're like going to start doing something again. And we had this new guy, Mark, he's going to sing. I remember even talking to some of my friends and acquaintances from Slightly Fuzzed and just being like, how is this going to work? I mean, how do you replace John Garcia? I mean, he is the draw in a lot of ways for this band. Like, this is insane. What a death sentence, And then finding Riotgod, and then talking to you, and then hearing some of your songs and seeing the practices and seeing the shows, I was like, oh, this is awesome. I mean, I'm so excited for this,
Yeah, it's got some, I like that aspect of it where I'm rather, it's no walk in the park either. Doing these tunes. They're particular. I've learned a lot just from going under the hood and looking at his lyrics. And I had to do, I had to cobble them together as best I could, because there was no like, for example, in Riotgod, I made sure to type all my lyrics out into a big PDF and I'd have them, whatever. This wasn't the case with Unida. I had to deal with, like, interpreting things on the internet, which were like, for example, like, I tell you, it's the latest game, like that, they almost went insane. And so I read it on the internet. It said it was a ladies' game. I was like, oh, that's text to speech, or that's speech to text. I was just like, what is this? Is weird.
I'm not very good at, like, hearing lyrics anyway. Like, when I listen to a song, I just hear, like, the kind of ups and downs and the lyrics. It's very rare that I even understand what they're saying.
Yeah. So, but so luckily I in situations not specific to Unida, but if there's something and you can just make the phonetic noise of what it is.
Sure.
In a live situation, no one's really going to know if they're even blessed enough to hear you.
Sure.
So you know, you might there are certain things where I just had to make a judgment call. I was like, what does it sound like?
Yeah.
You know, because that's the way I write. I mean, I'll write like, you know, there might be some riff going on and I might have an idea, but I don't have any words. So I'll just hum phonetic stuff like whatever.
Yeah.
And then, you know, then later that's a map, like a little color map. And you could be like, okay, this word goes there. This is my story. And you make a little puzzle for yourself.
Right.
But in the situation where you may not know certain lyrics and there is no forthcoming manner of you acquiring them, you just have to, I mean, as long as it isn't, I mean, put it this way, if I had to re-record something, I would seek down those actual lyrics and I'd go right to the source. I'd be like, hey, I need these lyrics.
Yeah.
I can't be going up there doing hubba dubba dubba dubba.
Yeah.
But if live, it's you know, it's okay. But
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I know that you said that you don't for sure know some of the future of Unida, but I have to ask a couple things. Is Unida ever going to get back on Spotify? Because I don't think there's a single song on there.
That is probably just from my outsider look, it's the decision, whomever's in charge, whoever wields that decision-making power. If you notice, you go on to like Apple Music and AC/DC's got one tune, and that's it. Now that's a matter, but if you look at Riotgod, they're out there like a cheap date. I mean, they're any song you want, and you know, I mean, that's fine and dandy. I mean, whatever.
Well, Unida's not exactly easy to come by in the first place. I mean, they don't have a whole lot of like physical stuff out there anyway. And then for not to be on Spotify, it's frustrating.
It's a matter of whomever's. It just like in any. It doesn't have to be Unida. It could be anybody who's in charge of those. Who's in charge of the product. And I am not qualified to say. I'd imagine that eventually something will happen. I'd hope. I mean, for those who want to hear it or whatever, it's an odd situation because you know, it depends on it, but some people, you know, they'll go to YouTube and they'll hear, you could hear the album that never was. You could hear that.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of my next question was, I know like the Great Divide and stuff like has never really seen its proper day in the light. And I was just curious now that there's kind of like this new imagining of Unida. Is there any plans of re-recording, re-releasing, doing a physical copy? Like, is there any real?
I would. These are all questions that are out of my pay grade.
Sure.
And I mean, I'm just, you know, I right now. Well, I just got off this experience. You know, I can say it was put it this way, it wasn't not successful. It was, I felt that people came away like, I saw more happy faces than glum. I heard, you know, so I think it was successful.
Sure.
So, but I'm so unqualified to even, I mean, that's all Arthur and Mike's situation.
Sure.
You know,
that's understandable. I just thought maybe you guys, you know, shared a few words on the tour bus or something about it.
No, there was, I mean, you know, that was, I mean, you know, you really can't count. I mean, there's what people, until something is in front of you, until there's an agreement of like, you know, I mean, this, that, or the other thing, and where you sit down to a concerted effort of writing, you know, there's a lot of nebulous parts about the band where like, yes, they do have that other album, and I don't know anything about it. I don't know. I mean, because let's just say it wasn't Unida. Let's just say it was just a band. Well, who has the masters? Who has this? Are you going to keep it? Are you going to put it out as it was? or are you gonna reattend to it to make it more in line with what you have currently? All these things are super duper. They're as speculative to me as it is to anyone else who might be questioning yay or nay or yes or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
Honestly, it hurts my brain. It hurts my brain, man.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so listen, I have a segment that I call Real or Fuzzed.
Okay.
And a lot of what we do on Slightly Fuzzed has to deal with some goofy album covers and whatnot,
Okay.
just some outrageous stuff that has been put out into the universe. And
Right.
we're going to play a little game where I'm going to show you 10 album covers, and some of them are real albums, and some of them are fake, and what I call fuzzed album covers.
Okay.
And you're just gonna tell me what you think, if they're real or fuzzed.
Okay.
All right.
Really
so this first album cover, I'll show you here.
Yes.
Is called Alibi. You're prettier when you die.
Oh boy, look at this. I'm going to say it's real.
This one kind of has like a 90s vibe to it, but
it's fake.
Fuzzed. It's fuzzed.
I should have gone. My instinct has to be fuzzed, even though you have the parental advisory down there, little fakey thing. So the next one has to be real.
Hat.
Oh, for real.
By Davy Graham.
Yeah. Look at that hat. He's real serious about that hat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say that's a great album.
This is a real one. This is a real album.
That's right. Look at him. He's ferocious.
This one's called Stoner Boner, and the name of the album is Boner Stone.
Well, they really like that centerpiece. It's got not one but two. It's got got one dick with a satellite dick.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say this is no.
This is fun.
Yeah, come on, man. And really,
this is real. I just listened to it today. In fact,
fuck, dude. Well, what happened to the balls? I mean,
I don't know what happened to the balls. It's
or is that a mushroom? Or is that some sort of weird looking mushroom that come on?
No, I think that's the Stoner Boner.
Okay, well, it seems like they have a long career. I mean, not that a bad career, but it makes me think about well, are you just a stoner with a boner, or do you have there's a person who has a boner for stoner music, and then what the other take on the?
It's open to interpretation, I think.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to this. I'll have to listen to it now.
Yep. This one's by Barbara Marquet. It's All Right to Fuck All Night is the album.
And is this? She doesn't look particularly stoner.
No.
Well, it's a good thing it's the long version. That's a real one. Because it's got the maxi single, yeah.
Yeah, this one is a real one. She's got some interesting song titles I've discovered as well.
Oh, that's good.
The Boys Next Door definitely won't hurt you.
No, that's fuzzed.
This one is fuzzed. You seem confident.
It is. Anytime you use an Arial type font underneath there, it gives it right away. It's like a bad meme.
All right, this place sucks ass.
Oh, that's real. I think that's real.
Yes, this one is real.
Yeah.
It's a good album cover, actually. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
The Philanderers. You're the only one today.
Oh, Lord. Look at these dudes. They kind of look like they're coming out of a 1970s A&S catalog. So look at these dudes. What... Did seconds after this, the photographer said they could exhale. So I'm gonna go with it's real.
This one is fuzzed.
Oh, what a great font though. That's dude, they're totally out of God knows where they on A&M. Of course, Herb Alpert would sign them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was in a JCPenney's catalog or something.
Yeah, that's what it is. Look at those pants.
Yeah. And the Wrench. Songs to stay in the kitchen to.
Wow. That's such a strange thing. Look at this. Oof. Like the maid got to the cake. No, it's fuzzed.
This one is fuzzed. Yeah, I made
yeah. Look at that. Look at that. Oof.
Pizza death. Slice of death.
Oh, for fuck's sake! If this is real, I'm going to kick me. Well, they're from Chicago, so I'll say it's real.
This one is real. Yeah.
Yeah, they were really proud of their town.
Yeah, this is some heavy music, so it's not a bad. I think I heard some of this one actually. So,
well, I like the upside down eyeball pizza.
Pizza pentagram.
Yeah, I would like a pizza place to serve up something like that.
Yeah,
there'd be some articulated cutting there.
Yeah. All right, last one. This is the Goldwaters. Sing folk songs to bug the liberals.
That's fuzzed.
This one is real.
Oh, God. From what years? You know what? First of all, curse them for not putting a drop shadow under their name.
Yeah. It's a little tough. Yeah, it's a little tough.
Blends into the top.
Yeah.
And so they got a banjo and all these dudes. Like,
I love their sweaters, though. It's the AU and the H2O. I'm assuming AU is like the
Goldwater
symbol for gold. So
it's Goldwater. AU is well, how witty.
It's so funny. Yeah. So that one's a real one. I don't remember what that one sounds like, but that one's a real one.
Well, I should have known because of the goodwill feel about it. Like that record was sitting in like a shelf for a long time.
Yeah. All right. So that was real or fuzz, man. Thanks for playing that one.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
So listen, man. I got to have you back on like the Fuzz Club or something when we do another episode, maybe diving into Riotgod album or Unida or something. And I think you have a lot of stories, and I'm super pumped for what's in the future. And like I said before, I hope everyone goes and checks out Riotgod. I'm really looking forward to what you guys are doing here in the near future.
You want to know? This was my weird moment. In Tabernas, just talking about other bands, I had a guy come up to me. Now, a lot of the stuff before Riotgod, I consider like the dark ages. I was learning. There are some songs on there that are going to be featured on my YouTube channel as songs of note, like whether they're because of something I learned or because of the quality of like the lyrics that I was writing, because that's I care about the lyrics. And going through different whatevers. So we're at, here we are in the desert of Spain. Okay. We get off stage, and, I expected to sign a few Riotgod things because we were in Germany and like, that's where our label was. And I figured we were known more over there than we were over here. But this guy came up to me and he wanted me to sign a Unida thing. Even though I'm not on the album, but sign it, I did. Then he had a Riotgod thing, the first album, his first CD. I signed that. And then, I don't know if this dude got it off eBay, but I was in a band in the early 90s. And he had that CD cover. Like, the only other place you would see this band's name in except for like, I don't consider online mentions and shit but the real time is on the first Life of Agony CD. We were in the thank you list. And I had to actually talk to one of the fellas. I had to talk to Joey to go get I said, please send me a picture of because I want to, it's just for my retrospective. Mm-hmm. And the reason why we were on that cover is because it was 1993. Life of Agony, I think, was just starting. And we were doing our thing, and we had to do an in-store with them. And they asked if they could go on first because they had somewhere else to go. And we were like, sure. And so that was that. That's the only other place you're going to see this band's name anywhere. So this guy in the middle of the desert has this cover. And I was like, I said to him, bro, you have done your research. Yeah. I mean, this is ancient stuff. Holy shit. Why don't you pull out one of my cassette demos? And, but some people are like that. And so I signed that too. I was like, well, I think I'm the only guy you're going to get to sign that unless you, visit Jersey or something and track some folks down.
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting. Yeah. I mean, I signed a few other Riotgod things, but the very small, like very small amount. You know, there wasn't a big cross pollination at all.
Well, I know you kind of mentioned that there is some new tunes in the works, at least maybe in a practice space or something. Is there any talk of recording anything?
Oh, of course. Like I can say that with a degree of certainty. I mean, at least from my most recent recollection of conversations, is that it's on their radar. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
So I always keep myself kind of like on this like neutral. Like, you know, I'm in a situation such as this, you know, no one, myself or anyone else, can feel like, and this sounds strange, like you're a bona fide member of the band, and you know, this is all very new. This was one tour,
sure. Yeah.
So I am deferent. You know, I defer to, like, you know what? I'm not asking for like a save the date or an invitation, but like meaning that I always and anytime I talk about something that's prognosticating the future, I can only go upon what I know. And yes, I've heard the music, and I've put some melodies and ideas to it. You know, quickly, like in a situation where you didn't want to lose them in the morning before I went to work or something, or on the weekend, and so I know for a fact that it's expressed that new music is like up there in the concerns to proceed like that and make new things. I mean, Arthur's got a ton of ideas, I'm sure, well beyond what I've even heard. So I know that, and I know that it's just a matter of fact. You have to, as a musician, you want to, you know, I mean, I have solo stuff that I'm doing. I have other stuff that I'm doing. Whatever it is that and then, you know, our bass player Colin does a number of other things. You just got to get those ideas out. But in this context, I think Arthur has imaginations and plans, positive plans to make Unida to get that new stuff out.
Sure. You know? Well, I hope he has a plan to get the old stuff out too. But as a skeptic myself that was nervous about this whole thing, I can say from the bottom of my heart, I'm beyond excited. I think that you are the right person for this job. I couldn't be more excited for the future of Unida and yourself, regardless of you know what that might look like.
Yeah, I look forward to, you know, it can only get better. I mean, like, if I'm going to continue singing these songs, I mean, it's not going to be like I'm going to get more comfortable at it. And you know, these fellas have been jamming these tunes. I mean, even like with Riotgod, when I was on stage at Wacken, I had been singing those songs for at least 5 years, so I knew them like the back of my hand. I mean, can I say that about Unida songs? Certainly not. It's just I have a couple of very, very short amount of time. But
well, you know what sold me was you singing "If Only Two," because that's my jam. I love that song. That's like my favorite Unida song.
A lot of people request that,
and you fucking nailed it, man. I was so excited to hear that video. So
thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough song to sing. It's
I bet it is.
Yeah. It's demanding.
Yeah, I bet.
So,
well, is there anything else that you would like to plug or tell anyone about before we wrap up?
Nope. I'm going to go have some dinner.
Right on. Thank you so much for being on, man. I look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Later.
Adios.